I was living abroad for about 4 years during 2017 to 2021, mostly in Korea, but Japan and Thailand as well. I lived in Japan in 2012 and loved life outside of the States since then. This is no way to say I hate America, but the States is just so much harder than I remember, from housing to healthcare. And so I just wanted to share with you all that today, and this is just all from my personal experience. All right. Hello, family and friends. Long time no see. Thank you. Now that I've been back in America, and y'all, America, I don't know how you guys do it. It's just been so rough. Just here to kind of chat with you guys about my experience coming back to the States. But yeah, it's been 2 years since I've been back to America now. April of 2021. Moved to New York, enjoyed New York, then moved to Texas. So one thing about America is I feel like it's a lot harder than I remembered. First, things are like way more expensive. I feel like honestly, living in Korea was like such a walk in the park compared to America. And like even going back to New York City, right? Rent's laughably expensive. 1 bedroom in Manhattan is like $3,500 on average. Coming to Texas here is obviously a lot more cheaper, but overall still like living expenses is like a thing. And then you're forced to pay gas here, which you don't really have to worry about in New York. Like cost of food has just gone up really high. One thing I loved about living in Korea was like just going to like local markets and just being able to get a bunch of vegetables and fruit very cheap. Also including expenses is healthcare. I don't know how Americans survive. I really don't. Because healthcare is just like, not only is it extremely expensive, but most people like don't have healthcare. Like I also do not have healthcare. And like the only way to get access to healthcare is to work like at a company or corporate job, which also that's been really hard to find too. And like the thing with healthcare is like you pay a premium per month to use it, and then like it doesn't even kick in until you pay like a certain amount of money on your own, and then it kicks in. It's like you're paying like say like $500 a month for healthcare, and then say you hurt yourself, but you have to pay like $1,000, $2,000 out of pocket first before it kicks in. Like it just literally makes no sense. And it's been really sad to see like people struggling, because you know I see so many people out on the streets just having like a really hard time, and like people who are low income that aren't able to just get the access that they need. And then being in Texas, which we know have some certain laws and rules that are happening, and just people being stripped away from that accessibility has been super sad. I feel like America's like struggling. Like why is it so difficult? Like why can't people just be able to go to a doctor's when they need something or when they need help without having to stress about the money or wonder if they'll get proper care? And it's just such a strange feeling, because you know in Korea, I was joking, tell people like literally when you have a cold in Korea, people go to hospital for cold. It's so simple. Like I remember getting a cold in Korea, and then teachers telling me like, "Bro, you have a cold, why don't you go to the hospital?" I'm like, it's just a cold in my perspective, but you know for them like health is so important, and like because they have that access to healthcare, it's like, oh yeah, why not? Of course we'll go to the hospital because we have a cold, because we're sick, and that's what the hospital's for. Also, it doesn't make sense to me that you need like to have a company job in order to have access to healthcare. I mean, let's like not even talk about corporate jobs. It's hard to find a job. I have been trying to apply for jobs at companies, and I'm just having such a hard time finding something because it's just so difficult. It's very competitive. I go on LinkedIn, you know, and people who are applying for a similar job has like, oh, this job has over 200 plus applicants, and you know, and then sometimes you told like, oh, companies put up job postings just to have it up, even though they don't need to fill it in, and then people are laid off, and everyone's just having a hard time. So everything's like not only just very expensive, but also just like very hard. I don't have access to job, healthcare, and money, and yeah, just everyone's like having just a difficult time. Like coming back to America, I didn't realize like how hard of a country it is. Like I remember like living in other countries and being like, America feels like it's like hard mode on a video game when it comes to life. You know, coming back and reliving it, I'm like, dang, like this is hard. This food is so good, by the way. I just know so many people who are struggling in general. Like I'm 31, I turned 32 in a few days actually, yay. But I have so many friends who are in their 30s and they just can't even think about having a kid, let alone a house. Like, oh my God, I don't even want to get into housing. Rates are super high. I have friends who want kids but can't have them because it's just too expensive. And I feel like because America's very money driven and very corporate driven, right? America's based off corporations. And so it's more about like how can we increase record profits, even if it's at the expense of others. And yeah, we're just seeing the byproduct of that type of system that we have. Another thing that I really struggle with coming back to America is the fact that there's lack of public transportation. It literally makes no sense to me that New York City is the only place in the entire country that has public transportation. And New York City, no, I love New York City. It does not compare to the things I see in Japan and in Korea. I feel like it's so much better in other countries. But yeah, in America, you know, you're forced to have a car, and cars aren't cheap, right? And cars nowadays are even more expensive than ever. So many people have car loans or something like that, where like each month they pay a certain amount for their car, and like they're barely able to afford rent. Now they have a car payment on top of that, and then you need gas, which is also expensive. Thankfully Texas is not too bad, but I've seen in California California. You Californian people, I feel so bad for because like it's way too high. And yeah, they need like maintenance and stuff like that. It's just like I feel like if we just have better, like healthier, like public infrastructure, then like people wouldn't have to worry about spending money needing a car. Having more walkability and more like public transit creates a healthier society as well. People are able to use subways and people are able to walk and you're able to use bikes and keeps your body moving, which I feel like a lot of us don't move anymore. Coming back in Texas, I feel like I sit so much. I have to actively choose to move my body, whereas you should just be moving your body naturally, just like going shopping or going to a restaurant or going to work even. Like in Korea, right? I always rode my bike to work, or I could walk to work, or I would take the subway to meet a friend, and then I got to walk up flights of stairs. You know, I'm always constantly in movement. Sitting down is really boggles you down. It feels so unhealthy. It feels bad for your body. It plays a role into like your mental and emotional health. I feel like, you know, when we have more movement and we see more people out and about and we have more like green spaces, and I feel like it just creates a very like healthy society. But in Texas especially, or like most of America, you know, a lot of people are in cars, and so you only see cars. Like I don't see people outside in Texas. I see trucks in Texas, a lot of trucks and a lot of cars, and I feel like it kind of can lead to like a disconnect almost to like, you know, we're a lot less social because we don't have that impersonal face-to-face interactions as much. Just like walking, you know, and seeing a bunch of people smiling, going to cafes, you know, saying hi. We don't really do that. I feel like we're so much more like separate now. I think that's just like the way, you know, America's set up. And I feel so bad for the younger generation because like they literally have nothing. I don't see kids playing outside anymore. You know, everyone's just in the car. I just wish that would change. I feel like that's one of the hardest things I had to struggle with because I went from someone who walked everywhere and biked everywhere to like now driving everywhere. It just doesn't feel that good, I think. Thankfully, you know, I've like my Apple Watch helps me like when to stand up. Thank you for this, but I shouldn't have to like rely on technology to be like, hey, you need to move your body. I should just be able to naturally just move my body, but it's hard when you're in an environment that encourages sitting 99% of the time. Another thing I also feel like about America too that I kind of struggle with is that I feel like people are more angrier. If that makes sense. Like one thing I really have a first culture shock about, yeah, I just feel like people are more angry and like more disconnected than ever. Before I left, maybe things were different, but yeah, I just feel like now people are just so much more hostile, and I feel like there's more like divide and anger. I feel like in part to social media too. Now with like TikTok and things, it's very easy to get into like certain groups or certain mindsets because you're kind of like tunnel visioned into things. I feel like there's just more fear. There's fear about different races, and it just feels like more like exacerbated. But you know, because we've always had sexism and racism, etc. But I just feel it's just more intense. There's so much more like men versus women and just judgment of others. I don't need anybody else. Screw everybody else. Like everyone's out to get me. I don't need to care about other people. Sometimes it's even celebrated. There's nothing wrong with having like individualism, which I know American culture is all about individualism, but I think it shouldn't be at the cost of compassion and caring for other people. Kind of like the mask situation during COVID. Masks was normalized in Korea because it's more like I don't want to get everybody else sick. That's kind of the mindset they have. Whereas here it's more like I don't want to wear it. Like why do I need to wear it? It imposes on me versus thinking about other people. And I feel like that's due to America's individualism culture where it's more like about me, and instead of community. And I just feel like there's been a bigger disconnect of community nowadays than ever before. It definitely is just like very strange. We're a bit more trigger happy. So yeah, it's just really sad. We should be bounding together, working together as a community, no matter the gender or race. But kind of a culture shock for me to see that even when I'm at the gym, like my gym or like a lot of gyms I've been going to, like, people don't re-rack their weights. A lot of heavy weights on it. And I'll just leave it like that. And then I'll see a small person try to take them off because they want to use the machine. But they can't because they're tiny and it's like they're struggling. So I go up to help get off. But deep down, I'm just letting the person who used this before just take it off. And again, there's just like a lack of consideration I've just noticed in like day-to-day life. Driving, I need to get to the destination first. I'm going to cut off people. I'm going to speed past people. Or I'm not going to let someone come through. I mean, that could be like the Houston driving thing. I don't know if that's like a lot of America. But it's just like, no, let's stop for other people or let's let them go ahead of you. It's okay. You don't need to be all about me. I think we should, again, be more about community. And yeah, I just feel like I'm not really seeing that as much in America. Yeah, it is kind of like heartbreaking. But, you know, hopefully that changes. And, you know, I don't blame like individuals. I think individually, I think people are very nice. I always have a very positive view on people overall. But I think culturally, though, you know, individually people can be nice. But I think culturally, though, we celebrate that individualism. So when I think of America as a whole, I can see like, what about me? But when I meet people individually, you know, I do find people to be kind. I think people are just very stressed. So I really get it. I understand. But overall, like, I feel like it could just be like a misalignment for me in terms of Texas or America. I'm not really sure, but it's just a learning experience. But yeah, it could just also be, you know, just a misalignment. Like, it's just not my place. At least Texas for sure. better. And that's okay, you know, there are things that work better for me and I just need more accessibility. Overall, like I am very grateful for the experiences I've had. I can't lie about that. I can't say like this is like the worst thing ever. It's just like they've just been very different and have been difficult experiences. I use the time here to find joy into other things and appreciate the little things, you know, that I have. But I definitely do miss living abroad, and there definitely is a possibility that I'll go back abroad. So yeah, I'm just kind of like working towards that. But yeah, we'll see. I do want to make videos here again. Like I really love making videos. Even if I'm not traveling, I'll just find, you know, videos that I'm still like very passionate about and things that I could maybe share with you guys while I'm here. And then maybe once I go back abroad, then I can share my experiences there too. Thanks for watching. It was so nice catching up with you all. I'm gonna go ahead and finish my lunch, but I just wanted to do this kind of update. I'll just kind of chat with you about my time in America. I know it's been a long time since I've been back on this channel. Much love to you all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day, night, whatever. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.